Don't eat too much fruit, it's got way too much sugar. Don't eat fruit, it's going to give you diabetes. Fruit's going to make you fat. Is any of this true? Let's find out.
Please follow us on Instagram at High Carb Health, and don't forget to click on that green H so you follow our stories and get to see everything that we eat and do throughout the day. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, click on that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you are notified of all future videos.
Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about fruit, and if you've been following us for a while, you know that we eat a lot of fruit, and we get comments all the time. How do you eat so much fruit? That's way too much, it must be unhealthy for you. That's way too much sugar. How are you going to avoid diabetes? Well, it's been 7 years now and none of that has eventuated, and you can even see our blood tests if you look at our other videos. So let's go into fruit and let's talk about some of the science about fruit, because you know what? To this date, I'm yet to find a scientific peer-reviewed study that shows that fruit is bad for our health. Isn't that amazing? And there's so many people that talk about fruit being unhealthy for us, yet there is no scientific evidence to back that up. And if you have found an article that shows that fruit is bad, can you please send it to me? Because I'd love to see it. So when we look at fruit and its ability to keep us healthy, did you know that the #1 dietary risk factor was not eating enough fruit? And so I want to bring up this study, which is the Global Burden of Disease study published in 2012. It is the most comprehensive and systematic analysis of causes of death undertaken to date. And well, they looked at nearly 500 researchers from more than 300 institutions in 50 countries. And starting with almost 100,000 data sources. Well, what did the researchers find? Well, in the US, they found that the biggest killer was our diet. And #1 on their list of the most important dietary risks was not eating enough fruit, responsible for an estimated 4.9 million deaths a year around the world. That's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, next time someone tells you that fruit is unhealthy, seriously, just kind of nod your head and smile, and just walk away. Even more interestingly, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists, if Americans ate just one more serving of fruits and vegetables per day, this would save more than 30,000 lives and $5 billion in medical costs every year. So, the research shows that fruit is good for us, and we're going to go into some more research as we go into this video. But logically, we know that fruit is a healthy food. I mean, we've been told since our early childhood to eat more fruits and veggies. Eat your fruits. When we were given our foods as young children, bananas were one of the first foods that we were given to eat because they're easy to digest, they're soft, they're full of fiber and vitamins and minerals, and just such an amazing food for our bodies. So logically, we have known that fruit has been a part of our healthy diet for a very, very long time. In fact, anatomically, humans are a frugivorous animal. And that surprises a lot of people because, people say we are carnivores or we are omnivores or we are herbivores. We're none of those, actually. We're frugivores. And just because we can put something in our mouth doesn't mean that we're designed to eat it. I mean, if you look at what they did to cows in England, right? They gave cows cow flesh. And this led to mad cow disease. So when you give an animal something it's not designed for, it's going to cause disease. And therefore you can see that because humans are eating foods that we're not designed for, we are getting many different diseases around the world. And fruit is our natural food. For example, in nature, every species lives on a diet of predominantly raw foods. And we had to do that too at one point before we created fire and learned how to cook. So what would our natural food have been? Now, if I give you a few plates of raw food and let you think about how your instincts are going to work, which is the food that you're going to be more interested in eating? A fresh plate of ripe, delicious fruit, a plate of uncooked, starchy vegetables, a plate of uncooked grains, a plate of uncooked meats. Now, even when I used to eat meat, the thought of raw meat used to disgust me. And nothing's changed now. I'm sure that's true for 99.9% of the human population. The thought of putting raw meat in our mouth is absolutely disgusting. Even handling it and touching it, it doesn't really do anything for us. Whereas you give someone a delicious, ripe, sweet, crunchy piece of watermelon, and we're going to start salivating. And that's how we know that we're designed to eat fruit. So let's get into some of the scientific evidence. Because we get told every single day that fruits aren't bad for us. So where did this concept even come from? Because arguably fruits are one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. Where did this idea come from that fruits could be unhealthy for us? Well, it begins with studies done on fructose. In these types of studies, they isolate fructose. For example, high fructose corn syrup is being put to the test in certain situations. And although fructose is naturally found in fruits, it can also be created artificially to be used as a sweetener in processed foods like soda, candy, etc. Sugar in processed foods is harmful, while eating sugar in the form of whole fruits is beneficial. For example, researchers reported that artificially made fructose is associated with liver and blood pressure problems, while fruit is not, and may even be beneficial for you. So why would fructose in an isolated sugar be bad for us, whereas the fructose in fruit is not bad for us? Well, there's many reasons for this. Fruits can be thought of as one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Most are naturally low in overall calories, while containing many micronutrients, including vitamins, minerals, and a variety of phytochemicals such as beta-carotene, polyphenols, and other antioxidants. This is the exact opposite of ultra-processed refined sugars like high fructose corn syrup. And therefore, when you put the two to the test, you find that the refined processed food is harmful, while the whole food, such as a fruit, is beneficial for our health. And it practically is beneficial for our health every single time and in every single application. So now that we know the difference between a highly processed sugar like high fructose corn syrup and the natural sugar that's found in fruits, the reasons people are worried about the sugar in fruit is because fruit contains fructose. And we see all these studies about high fructose corn syrup and we automatically implicate fructose in fruit as something that's harmful for our health. And this couldn't be further from the truth. So next time someone tells you fruit has too much sugar, they really haven't done their research very well. But what about diabetics? Because regardless of whether the sugar in fruit is good for us, if we've got diabetes, surely any sugar is bad for us, isn't it? So what does the research say about fruit and diabetes? Well, the findings are very interesting. Now, because there is a link between sugar and diabetes, many health professionals recommend that their patients who have diabetes or at a high risk of diabetes limit their fruit intake. However, increased fruit consumption has been associated with lower diabetes risk. Further, a 2011 study specifically among diabetes compared medical nutrition therapy with a restriction of the amount of fruit eaten to a group who had at least 2 pieces of fruit daily. The group limiting fruit consumption had no benefit compared to those eating lots of fruit. Considering the many benefits of fruit consumption, the authors wrote that the intake of fruit should not be restricted in patients with type 2 diabetes. Amazing, isn't it? So because of our preconceived conceptions about how diabetes occurs, and I'm going to explain that to you shortly, we seem to think that fruit should negatively impact diabetics, when in fact the opposite is true. A more recent study even reported that higher fresh fruit consumption was associated with lower risk of diabetic complications and death among those who already had diabetes. So hold on a second, fruit which has sugar in it is actually more beneficial for diabetes. How can that be? Well, you understand that if you understand what causes diabetes, because diabetes is not caused by having too much sugar, it's caused by having too much fat, which causes something called insulin resistance. This means that the insulin that is produced in our body is not being appropriately utilized to its best ability. And what I want to do is show you this quick video that explains insulin resistance very, very well.
Studies dating back nearly a century noted a striking finding. If you take young, healthy people and split them up into 2 groups, half on a fat-rich diet and the other half on a carb-rich diet, within just 2 days, this is what happens. The glucose intolerance skyrockets in the fatty diet group. In response to the same sugar water challenge, the group that had been shoveling in fat ended up with twice the blood sugar. As the amount of fat in the diet goes up, so does one's blood sugar spikes. It would take scientists nearly 7 decades to unravel this mystery, but would end up holding the key to our current understanding of the cause of type 2 diabetes. When athletes carb load before a race, they're trying to build up the fuel supply within their muscles. They break down the starch into glucose in our digestive tract. It circulates as blood glucose, blood sugar, and is taken up by our muscles to be stored and burned for energy. Blood sugar, though, is like a vampire. It needs an invitation to come into our cells, and that invitation is insulin. Here's a muscle cell. Here's some blood sugar outside, waiting patiently to come in. Insulin is the key that unlocks the door to let sugar in our blood enter the muscle cell. When insulin attaches to the insulin receptor, it activates an enzyme, which activates another enzyme, which activates two more enzymes, which finally activates glucose transport, which acts as a gateway for glucose to enter the cell. So insulin is the key that unlocks the door into our muscle cells. What if there's enough insulin, but the insulin doesn't work? The key is there, but something's gummed up the lock. This is called insulin resistance. Our muscle cells become resistant to the effect of insulin. What's gumming up the door locks in our muscle cells, preventing insulin from letting sugar in? Fat. What's called intramyocellular lipid, fat inside our muscle cells. Fat in the bloodstream can build up inside the muscle cell, creating toxic fatty breakdown products and free radicals that can block the signaling pathway process. So no matter how much insulin we have out in our blood, it's not able to open the glucose gates, and blood sugar levels build up in the blood.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So the whole idea behind diabetes is that the insulin that is produced, well, this is type 2 diabetes, the insulin that is produced cannot attach to the receptor in the cell, in the muscle cell, because of something called too much intramyocellular lipid, which is too much fat inside the muscle cell. What this does is it blocks the receptor from connecting to the muscle cell. When this happens, the signal for sugar to leave the bloodstream never occurs, and therefore our blood sugar remains high. If the amount of fat in our muscle cells is lower, the insulin is able to attach to the receptor on the muscle cell, the signal is sent to take the sugar out of the bloodstream, and we do not have high blood sugar anymore. So the actual issue with diabetes is not because there's too much sugar, it's because there's too much fat in our diets, and we really need to think about removing the fat from our diet as fast as possible, keeping the diet low fat, high in whole foods, high in plant foods, high in carbohydrates, which gives us the best ability to function at an optimal level. The other thing that a lot of us hear a lot is that fruit is going to make you fat because of the high carbohydrate content. Well, is that true? This study from researchers at Harvard reported that just 0.22 portions of fruit daily, so that's about 1/5 of an apple, was associated with reduced risk of obesity by 14%. In a different study from 5 European countries, they reported that a 100-gram increase in whole fruit intake per day was associated with a small loss of weight. And in 2011, researchers asked a group of volunteers to decrease consumption of all sugars, including fruits, while another group was asked to decrease added sugars only. The group who ate less fruit and sugar lost weight, about 6.5 pounds, but the group consuming fruit but less added sugar lost even more weight, about 9 pounds. So isn't that funny? They reduced sugar, well, added sugar. So that's the huge problem here. Added sugar is never going to be good for us. Refined foods are not good for us. But if you're eating sugar in fruits, which is a whole food, you're going to get additional benefits. Okay, like that group that even lost even more weight, even though they didn't limit their consumption of fruits. In fact, a major review article published in 2016 in the journal Nutrients summarized existing scientific evidence which consistently reports that fruit is associated with less obesity and even with weight loss. So fruit is not a food that causes weight gain, it causes weight loss because of all the things I mentioned earlier. It's low in caloric density, high in fiber. It fills you up for very low number of calories. And therefore, overall, you're going to lose weight if you need to lose weight on fruit. However, people who have IBD generally don't need to lose weight, do they? They need to gain weight. And we've seen that for all our clients, once they heal their digestive issues, even with fruit, they can come back up to an optimal weight, so what's their ideal weight would be. And so therefore, fruit is beneficial again in all situations. So there are several mechanisms in which fruit helps to control weight. This includes a high nutrient content, but perhaps more importantly, modulating the gut microbiome, which people who are interested in IBD will definitely appreciate, and providing prolonged satiety, feeling fuller for longer, leading to a decreased overall intake. So we can see that fruit doesn't cause diabetes and fruit won't make you fat. In fact, it will do the opposite of both things. It actually reduces blood sugar levels and is associated with weight loss. So what are the benefits of eating fruit then? There is consistent evidence that eating fruit is associated with lower risk of multiple cancers and cardiovascular diseases, including stroke. Increasing fruit consumption has even been associated with a decreased risk of dying from Alzheimer's disease and COPD, also known as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And we've known about this for a while. As long ago as 1985, it was suggested that fruit and vegetables may protect against early death. Multiple subsequent studies also observed a decreased risk of early death with higher fruit consumption. In fact, in 2017, a review of 95 studies published in the International Journal of Epidemiology noted that increased fruit consumption was associated with less cardiovascular disease, including stroke, less cancer, and less premature death. Some studies reported that those eating the most fruit compared to the least fruit had a 40 to 50% decreased risk of premature death. And another study reported that compared to those who didn't eat fruit, consuming a single portion of fruit each day was associated with a 19-month longer life. Just imagine what eating 5 portions of fruit a day might do, or if you're like us, closer to 15 to 20. Hold on a second, you eat about 15 to 20 servings of fruit a day? Well, that's way too much, isn't it? Funnily enough, there have been studies done on people eating up to 20 servings of fruit a day. And here is a short video explaining that.
17 people were made to eat 20 servings a day of fruit, despite the extraordinarily high fructose content of their diet, presumably about 200 grams a day, 8 cans of soda worth. The investigators reported no adverse effects, and possible benefit actually, for body weight, blood pressure, and insulin and lipid levels, fats in the blood, after 3 to 6 months. More recently, Jenkins and colleagues put people on about a 20 servings of fruit a day diet for a few weeks, and no adverse effects on weight or blood pressure or triglycerides, and an astounding 38-point drop in LDL cholesterol.
It's amazing, isn't it, that you can eat that much fruit and have no adverse effects, and in fact get lots of benefits, including the amount of amazing nutrition that you're going to get, and something that we experience every single day. So there you go. There is literally no evidence that eating fruits is bad for your health. And there is a huge amount of evidence that shows that fruits are beneficial, not only for diabetics, not only for people who are interested in weight loss, but there's huge benefits for all different types of diseases as well. And therefore, fruits should be number one on your list of foods to eat, just like they are for us and the majority of our clients who see huge benefits in their digestive health by adding fruits to their diet. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys, and if you liked it, can you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel by clicking on that subscribe button, and also the bell notification if you want to be notified of all future videos. If you have any questions about anything I've discussed in this video, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and until next time, eat plants and lots of them. Take care.
Give this video a thumbs up if you know what it's like to live with IBD, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. This channel is designed to help people recover from colitis, Crohn's, and any other form of IBD. You can always head to our website, highcarbhealth.com, for a free 30-minute consultation from anywhere in the world. And remember, there is a life after colitis.